Welcome to this Simply Communicate video about negotiating change. I'm Ian Webster, founder and owner of Simply Communicate. As I present this video, individuals and organizations around the world are encountering extraordinary changes forced on them through the Covid-19 pandemic. We're changing our organizations and our behaviors to survive the storm. Some are working from home, some are changing their structures to become leaner, while others have had to change their entire business model. Then we get the depressing news that 70% of all change initiatives in businesses fail. However, I want to suggest that it's not just a lottery. There are skills we can learn that will improve our chances to become one of the success stories. There's much more to change than we can cover in a brief video, but to help you make changes more successfully, we will identify one key element of the change process and unpack 3 critical skills. If you would like to know more or to discuss other aspects of making changes in the workplace, including the legal aspect, please do contact me. When contemplating change, we usually focus on the plans and processes, which are of course essential. But whether we're introducing structural changes, new systems, or simply a new office routine, changes will only happen if individuals change their behavior. Because ultimately, change is not about systems, it's about human behavior. Even when change is necessary for everyone's survival, it's almost always resisted. And that resistance derails change processes far more often than a glitch in a plan will do. Change is not a neat and tidy data-driven exercise. It's messy because it's driven by human beings. We see it in the varied responses to Covid-19. Countries around the world using the same data are doing different things because humans have to interpret the data and humans implement or fail to implement the interpretations. The same is true in our organizations. Human beings interpret what is being said, and they either adapt their behavior to fit the new directive or they adapt the directive to fit with how they do things. So this is the key element of the change process that we must understand. Unless we focus on helping people change their behavior, our best plans and processes will count very little. Let's look at 3 critical skills that will help towards changing behavior in your organization: leadership, communicating, and listening. Leadership first. Change happens in different ways in different organizations. Various models help us understand that. But there's a growing realization that leadership is essential for successful change. Someone who stands tall, brings a personal touch, and can influence people to change their behavior. Leaders dare not stand back and expect things to happen. Just look at the leaders around this Covid-19 world. Some have stepped up to the plate and are universally admired. Others seem to have stepped up to the wrong plate, while others have been missing in action. We're instinctively drawn to those leaders who are able to deal with the complexities of the problem, but who keep the human element front and centre. Who can forget the New Zealand Prime Minister telling the children that the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny were providing an essential service and would be allowed through during lockdown? Such leaders keep the process human. They work with the data, but people are not forgotten. We sense that our fears and our struggles are in safe hands. Are you aware of what your people are struggling with? Their fears and uncertainties? How do they know that you are aware and can be trusted? Because change requires a social pact where people can say, because we sense we can trust you, we're willing to walk this crazy path with you. And that trust is built on our other 2 critical skills: communication and listening. Communication is a big topic. Let me touch on just one thing. During change and crisis, we usually communicate what needs to happen and how it is to be done. But when people ask us to change our behaviour, we don't say, "Sure, what shall I do?" We say, "Why?" We might not always verbalize the question, of course. We might just slink away and do as we're told. But that why burns inside us. We're not going to rush into something new or difficult unless we're motivated to do so. And a good part of motivation comes from understanding why. Our employees too will be far more motivated if they know why it matters. And they'll do a far better job. Not only because they're motivated, but because if they know what the goal is, they can make changes along the way when needed. But the why is so obvious, I shouldn't have to explain, we say. Well, things are only obvious to us because we've worked with them for a long time, or we've travelled along a particular road. For example, we might think that wearing a mask during this COVID-19 pandemic goes without saying, but initially we were told that non-surgical masks were of no value. If that's what I'm still aware of, I'm going to resist wearing a mask. I want to know why. So our first two skills are leadership, keeping the process human, and communicating, explaining the why. Our third critical skill is listening. Communication often fails because we fail to address the real questions people are asking and the real fears and uncertainties they are experiencing. To discover what those are, we need to listen. But people don't talk to us because we tell them to, certainly not about their fears and concerns. They must first believe that we care and that we can be trusted. If we show that we really are interested and really care about what they think, then they will start to trust us and share more meaningfully. This is not a once-off waltz through the factory throwing out questions. It's a change in our behaviour that employees can see and appreciate. Real listening informs our communication and keeps the process human, which then encourages people to talk further. A virtuous circle encouraging and cementing that social pact, motivating everyone towards the required changes. Leadership, communicating, and listening. 3 critical skills for any change process. I would love to hear about what you have encountered as you navigate change and what has helped you. Please email me. Let me know also if you'd like to explore this or other leadership subjects further. My email is ian@simplycommunicate.co.za and my website is www.simplycommunicate.co.za. You can also find other videos in this series on the screen. You can also find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. Thank you for joining me.